Hello, everybody, and welcome to Top Some. I am William Lembowski, and today we are in Automobilista 2 once again in the new Mercedes Sauber C9. And I'm actually very excited to drive this car, test this car out to see how I can get it to really feel, because this car was, and really the Nordschleife, that's why I picked the track, are really what got me into sim racing. And this Group C class of cars is kind of really what got me into the actual racing aspect of sim racing, and not just the kind of messing about and doing things that you can't do in real cars. So because of that, the Group C car, specifically the Mercedes Sauber C9, has a very special place in my heart. It has a very I have a very rose-colored glasses when I look at it, and AMS2 is a little bit the opposite in that I look at it always with a little bit of criticism, and I usually don't give it the benefit of the doubt. And I'm willing to recognize, though, that they have made huge improvements, especially since release. So the way that these two are going to conflict against each other, I feel like could be positive, could be negative, but we're about to find out. I have driven to this car before. This is not my very first unboxing, so to say, but let's do a lap of the Nordschleife, and then we'll get into a race. So the first thing to notice with this car is that it suffers way more than most with Automobilista 2 and its somehow need for fishtailing. This is a very powerful wheel drive car, and so you would stand to reason that it would create a lot of power out of those back wheels. But there is a very teeny tiny, almost non-existent throttle margin between what will give too much power to the rear axle and make the car start sliding out in turns, or even in straights in fifth gear. And beyond that, this car should have tons of downforce that glues it to the track, specifically in those fourth and fifth gear situations that I'm referring to, where you're still kind of bouncing all over the racetrack. Especially somewhere in the Nordschleife, you don't really want to be doing that at all. You bounce wrong and you hit a curb, your lap, put it into sixth gear, that doesn't exist. Your lap and possibly, race is over. So that is something to think about. It doesn't quite make sense, and I think that all has to do with the inherent nature of Automobilista 2 and its need to have cars have really, really uncontrollable loose ends. I don't exactly know why that is a thing. I don't know if it's a holdout from the Madness engine, or I don't know if it is just something that Reiza has just decided that they want in their games, or that they feel makes like a more realistic racing experience. Whatever the reason is, it is amplified in this car as you would expect a very powerful rear-wheel drive car to be. And there you go. You saw, I guess you couldn't see my inputs. You didn't see how little throttle I gave that. But you saw how much I slid out in just a very short amount of time that you wouldn't expect. And I'm really afraid to drive this car at any sort of near the limit for fear of it instantly resulting in a treacherous accident that just ends up me ruining the lap or the sim racing experience over and over again. So I'm not to the point where I can go 100% in this car. And quite frankly, I'm not sure that this car is at a level where many people could take it 100%. And I have yet to really sink my teeth into the Porsche, but from the Mercedes Sauber C9 standpoint, it's just a little bit too squirrely. This is, a very new release. Maybe as time goes, the setups on the leaderboards are going to get incredible, and so maybe copying one of those top-end setups from the leaderboard will serve you well, and it'll fix all sorts of those aerodynamic problems, those jumpiness, are bouncing around at high rates of speed. Maybe you can do something with controlling the power in the rear end. But so that is really my caveat with this car, so to say. The rest of this car, I love. I love the way that this car looks. I think this car sounds really good. I think that the other livery options for this car are really awesome. I particularly like the sound of this engine at high revs. At its later, at its latter gears. I think it sounds quite amazing in the cockpit. You get that nice high-pitched whine and that throaty grumble all at the same time. It's an engine, a style of racing that just doesn't exist anymore. Oh, came in way too hot for that. But even though I have that criticism with the... Oh, did I just blow the engine? That's embarrassing. Okay, we're still rolling. Even though I have that criticism with... almost into the wall. With the way that the rear end behaves, I do have to give equal amounts of praise to how this car does grip in corners. It has a lot of grip, whether it be mechanical or aerodynamic grip through these corners. I am kind of usually surprising myself. Like right here, I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to make it through. I'm going to lose grip. I'm going to slide in the wall in front of everybody. But, you know, somehow it was magically able to find itself some grip. And I don't exactly know at this point, with my experience with the car, why that is, how that is, and how I can exploit that to my advantage more. But there does seem to be that equal amount of forgiveness in there to balance it out. It's not just this crazy, overpowered, loose fishtailing mess. So that is exciting. So even there, a huge overcorrection, and I didn't lose the car. Granted, I was not giving very much gas, but you would think that, really, even right there, any amount of gas would just kind of make the car go crazy. And I do know that there is some sort of expectation that this car is going to be crazy, loose, and squirrely. It's not perfect. I'm aware of the, what Group C is. I do think it drives pretty fantastically. But I still think that the point is still to be there. There is something missing with the way that this car behaves aerodynamically in the corners and how it handles at speeds on the straight that just kind of don't add up to me. Reiza is very, very famous for improving their cars post-release, so I imagine that this car is going to get touched up, to a perfect level, as time goes on. I don't doubt Reiza anymore when it comes to fixing their current game. They love to do it, and they do it fantastically. But where we're at right now is not perfect, and I do think, of course there's going to be a lot of driver learning to do. I have to figure this car out as much as anything else, but to that extent there are some things that seem like they should be obvious, but they aren't. Here we are topping out at 295 kilometers an hour. In fifth gear. This is as fast as we can get this car to go with the standard setup. But overall, I'm pretty excited about this car. I am like Mike from Sim Racing 604, who, if you've seen this video, I'm sure you've, if you're watching this video, I'm sure you've seen his video. He was a little bit disappointed that there was only 2 Group C cars to choose from. And we're about to jump into a race to see if that really does impact gameplay performance, so to say, or immersion. But that was our lap of the Nordschleife. Overall, I hope I wasn't too negative because I really am enjoying this car. All right, we're here at the starting line of Spa Historic. I am terrified, and the biggest reason is because I have had to restart every single race that I've attempted so far because these cars do not want to drive near the limit. They're far too uncontrollable to really race at 100. Oh, accidental downshift at 100% at this point. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I need to, improve my driving to get to the point where these are more drivable. Maybe it's setup, although if I'm using this stock setup, I don't think that should be a problem. But the point being, I don't feel confident at all with these cars on the limit. They do not feel like they want to exist there. Accidental punterino. As any race car, it is very comfortable being there. That's where it wants to be. That's where it's comfortable. And these cars are nervous and skittish like a pit bull that's been abused for years. And because of that, it's a very wild and raw, authentic rich, immersive experience of racing, but the technical side of it, or the logistical side of it, the other side of the coin, have you, is that don't punt a Reno, use the oversteer, thank God. It is that just like for situations like that, the immersion is super high. It feels like I'm in a race, and it feels very exciting, and I do feel like I have some sort of semblance of driving this crazy race car, but not necessarily that I am in a race with a crazy car, if that made any kind of sense. And so because of that, I am very, very excited to see what Reiza is going to do with this car in the future and with this class in the future as time moves forward. But for right now, I forgot about this chicane. Completely forgot that was a different chicane. Okay, is my car all damaged? But, yeah, completely forgot what layout of Spa that this was. So you can overlook a lot with a car when the race experience is fun and immersive. Like right now, I am in second to last place, but I am having a great time because these cars provide a great racing experience. And I don't like to be one of those guys that gets into the topic of sim racing and, oh, it's not realistic enough, this isn't real, that's not real, it shouldn't be like this or that. And so when I am making any, points of criticism, I hope that's not how it's coming off, or like, oh, have you ever driven this car? That's not how it, reacts to that kind of torque at that kind of speed and that kind of corner. That's not the point I'm trying to make here. And when I was referring to those kind of points, it was simply the juxtaposition between the high downforce nature of this car and the lack of gluing it to the ground at high speeds. But let's see here if we can stay on the track and into the wall. Yeah, so we're not able to keep up with the race here, so I think what I've learned here, severe damage, is that this car isn't really necessarily ready for racing at this point in time. It's a fun car to drive. I'm excited to see what kind of improvements they make, both of the class, both of the car, but I don't feel like this is a car that I can feel comfortable driving, and I felt that way about the BMW GT3, the M6 GT3 car, that it just wasn't ready. It didn't feel finished. It didn't have that at the limit experience that you would expect a top of the line race car to feel. And they made huge improvements, and now that BMW is my favorite GT3 car out of all of them. Definitely up there with the McLaren. So I'm excited to see what happens here. It's a very cool car, very cool class. It is well done, but there are improvements to be made. I'm excited to see what those are. Thank you guys for watching. I'm excited to see what you guys have to say in the comment section below. We'll see you in the next one, and consider subscribing. Thank you.